Hello friends, welcome to episode 178 of the Noclip Crewcast. I don't know why this keeps happening, but I swear to God, the past couple of weeks, every time I have looked at the list of games, or we've had a chat, we've had our Monday meeting, and we're like, what are we going to talk about this week? And then suddenly, like, fucking 7 games come out of nowhere, and it's like, oh my God, how are we going to fit all these all these games on the podcast? We have a bunch to talk about today. Dungeons of Blood and Dream, is it XDefiant or XDeviant? What are we calling this? XDefiant?
XDefiant, yeah.
XDefiant.
XDefiant. You could just laugh and then say
X-Hamster. Yeah. Go Mecha Ball, 9 Souls, RKGK, and we're going to talk about some old games too, Mad Max and Half-Life Alyx. A bunch of stuff here. Some of these games might be games. Look, you know the deal on the Noclip Crewcast. We talk about some video games, maybe some of them you've never heard of before, and then suddenly it's your favorite fucking game ever. So wise up, all right? Keep those ears open. We're going to hear about some fun-ass games coming out today. And you might want to, because the Summer Games Fest is starting next weekend. So by the time this podcast comes out on a Friday, we'll be deep in Summer Games Fest the next Friday after the next episode. And it's probably going to be a little bit quiet that week. So yeah, we're going to jump into it. Frank Howley, how you doing, my friend? What is the most fun non-video game thing you did over the past week?
Let's see. Over the past week, honestly, I've been riding my bicycle a lot because the weather's great, and so just reading my bike and listening to audiobooks is very, very fun. It's also now summer, so now like I don't have to worry about when schools are getting out or worry about traffic. But that means there's all
because you're not allowed within 100 feet of a school.
No, but it's tons of like cars picking up kids on the street. It's chaos. But now that means there's other jerks riding their bicycles. Now I don't have the roads to myself anymore. It's chaos.
It's like what was the name of that game we were all playing last? Bomb Funk Cyberpunk. Yeah, it's like Bomb Funk Cyberpunk.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Kids are tagging.
Bomb Rush, Bomb Fuck MCs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's all the different like skater crews are out now.
Yeah, there is a sewer down the road for where I am, and every few months I'll go for a hike in that area and just see all the beautiful tags that like the middle school children of Rancho Santa Margarita have spray painted, and it's like. Oh, it's like so charming just to see like I don't know. It's very, very I don't know. I always adore doodles and things like that. It's very funny.
I went home to the last time I was home in Ireland was August of last year, and every time I go home, there's I guess is it a Quinsworth now? I forget. Or a Tesco. It's a Tesco now. That I tagged when I was like 18. And this was the first time they had finally cleaned it. I was like, wow, it took 20 years maybe for them to get...
That's a historical landmark. How dare they?
Right, yeah, exactly. There should have been a little plaque. Here is where Daniel O'Dwyer tagged THC on the side of the Tesco, which was not a drug reference. It stood for... My tag was the hairy cornflake. Which,
oh my God! I thought it was. This is my guess. I was gonna say the Heathen Crew.
Oh, that's good.
I thought maybe that was like the tagging.
I can't even claim to have come up with it. It was the name of a British DJ in the 90s, I think. And I was like, oh,
okay,
I'm having that. What's worse is the man. All the great embarrassing stories are coming out now. I had a Quake 3 clan with a bunch of buddies. And we named ourselves after what I thought was the funniest sounding gang in America called the Uptown Buddy Boys. So I thought that was pretty good. But that's too long to tag. You need something quick so you can get the in and out, get the fuck out of there.
The
Jeremy Jane.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. I could have done that. Jeremy Jane, what clan were you part of growing up in America?
In middle school, my friend Ben and I decided we were a tagging crew, even though we didn't tag anything except for a little bridge down the street from my house.
Excellent.
and we both picked like old timey names to be our tagging names. So I was Dante for no reason in particular.
Ooh,
It just
cool.
sounded hard.
It does.
And then I can't remember what his was. It was like something stupid. It's something equally
Virgil?
stupid.
Beelzebub.
Yeah, he was Virgil, and he showed me how to tag.
That's pretty good. Jesse, have you ever graffitied the side of a Canadian Tesco? What's that one called again? Canadian grocery store, superstore? What is
Yeah, there's
it?
Canadian Superstore,
There you go.
real Canadian Superstore. You have to
That's
include
it.
the real in there because
Yeah,
you know it's
sorry.
authentic. No, I haven't tagged any local grocery stores, but I have tagged. There's like this forest behind my house,
Okay.
just along the escarpment, and there's a bunch of like
Escarpment?
random.
I've never heard
there's
that
like
before.
there's like a giant. People call it the mountain. It's not a mountain. It's just a mudslide. Big like 500 step stairs hill that I go up every once in a while for work or just to get up there. But there's a little forest beneath it behind my house,
Okay.
and there's a bunch of like concrete buildings in there, and me and
Brilliant.
my buddies in elementary school would go back there and tag it. I bet it's still there because the city's not going there to clean anything up. There's so much garbage and dead animal corpses and fireworks bits.
Forest
left out there.
porn? Did you ever find some
Forest
forest
probably.
porn?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not mine though. I was holding it for a friend.
Right.
I was just
Got it.
cleaning up the litter, you know? Like I
Yeah.
just didn't I saw it on the forest floor.
Taking
and
care
I
of
was
my
like, this is
environment.
wrong.
Did you
Don't
ever
ask me
get
why the
caught with
pages are
something?
sticky.
Like your parents were or that you had something in your possession, you were like terrified your parents were going to find. I'm not talking about like the drugs and alcohol and stuff. Like, was there ever like any magazine or there was one time where I forget who gave them to me, like Beavis and Butthead like trading cards, and they had like rude jokes on them. And I was in primary school, so I was probably like 9 or something. And my brother was like, "I'm gonna tell mom," and I was like, "No, don't tell mom. Fucking, she can't know that I think about things that are ungodly or whatever."
I don't know if I ever had an equivalent of that. I think when I was like really young, like fucking like 5 or something, I stole a Victoria's Secret magazine out
Wow.
of like curiosity because I was just like something in my brain was like, there's something about this is interesting. I don't know what it is yet, so I just like took it and had it in my room, and my mom was like, "Why do you have this?"
That's a really like upmarket sort of, fancy pants version of porn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, my excuse was that I was going to cut it up and like make like paper craft origami with
Oh,
it.
that's nice.
And she was like, "Oh yeah, all right, cool." And I was like, "Oh my god, that was."
I thought you were gonna say like I was gonna cut it up and make the woman of my dreams.
She has this bra, and she has these like.
It's like that. It's like what's her face from Nightmare Before Christmas. You just have like an arm sewed onto a
Yes.
something like that. Madness. Frank, I've apologies, but I feel like you're somebody who might have had something at one stage that your parents did not want to see.
No, my parents were down with anything. Like, as long as I had good grades, they're like, do whatever, I don't care. But I remember I had so many magazine subscriptions as a kid, which like led me to being like, I like games journalism, that's cool, like, EGM and stuff. But I had a WWE magazine subscription. And I think like the second issue was like the summer swimsuit issue. So I think it was like maybe 11, 12 or 13. I think 11 or 12. Like, and it was like the Stacy Keibler issue. So it was like the cover was just Stacy Keibler and all the divas in bikinis. And I think like my mom held it for me for a second, being like, "What is this magazine?" I'm like, no, normally it's wrestling. I swear. This is just the summer issue. And then I had it, and then
Which is a very magazine, Sports Illustrated does the same thing, right? It's a very like, and Sports Entertainment Illustrated, it's like, it's right there. There was a bizarre, I used to like biblically go down to the local bookshop and get my PC Gamer every month, which I mean, everyone did, right? They had their proxy of whatever magazine they were getting. And it felt like it was like, this was the connection to the world of games. But then every once in a while, there would be like a different one that wasn't PC Gamer or PC Format or Games Master or whatever, official PlayStation, whatever the hell it was. There was this, I remember there was a bunch of magazines they tried for a while, and there's this like very specific brand of lad mag that exists in the UK. Like T3 was one of them, and you had your FHMs and Maxims, right, which were more like sort of were about like culture and music and stuff like that, and then obviously had a bunch of models in them as well. But they would do these weird ones like T3, which I think stood for Tomorrow's Technology Today or something. It was a tech mag, but for some reason, like 10% of it was models. It was really bizarre. And there was one magazine in the UK, like, because Future Publishing or whoever it was, Imagine, one of these big publishing houses, they just try shit, right, and see if it worked, because they had all the resources and they had all the pipelines and all this. And there was a gamer magazine that had models in it. and it was absolutely bizarre. And I have 2 copies of it back home, and I want to bring them to Frank Cifaldi in the Video Game History Museum because they are insane. Like there's one of them that had like, it was a World War II game review, and it just had a bunch of models like dressed in lingerie, but like themed to like the Germans and the Russian. Like, it was so like
What?
Yeah, and this magazine I think there was only like 2 or 3 editions of this thing. And when I've Googled it, I've even found had an incredibly generic title. Like it was something like, I think it was called PC Action Games, which is also in and of itself very niche. To then sort of labor it with this, but it just, even when I got it, I was like, this is insane that this exists. But I bought it, so obviously it worked as well.
They got you.
They got me. But anyway, if anyone remembers PC Action Games, and I didn't just make this up, or like My Weird Town in Ireland was like the test bed for this magazine.
It was just guy's zine. He was just taking it to stores, and you just happened to buy one.
Exactly. Yeah. Some absolute maniac. Anyway, those were the days of yore. For all the criticisms people have about games journalism these days, we have come a long way, I think, from those days. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some video games. There is so many here. Let's start with Jesse. XDefiant. So this thing,
hold on. I think we have some people to thank before we start talking about video games.
You're right, we do. Sorry. Thank you to all of our incredible Battle Pass holders who will, of course, be getting their centerfold picture of the 3 of us for the Noclip Swimsuit Edition. Keep your eyes and ears open, folks. Eamon Slattery, Harry Flanagan, Battle Royale Games, Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Pez, Ewint Nate, Tim Robinson, Forrest Porn Pruitt, right there. Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Aaron Ladd. We're gonna go to QuakeCon this year, and my name is Fat Mike on the Discord has promised that he said he'd buy me a pint. Frank, we should also get you in on this if I do a Cameron Ladd in person. So that's become the new thing. So I feel like Cameron should get a cut at that. Maybe I'll send him like a little vial of it.
Send him a sip or two of beer. Yeah.
Exactly. Zachary Snader, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sakotis, Jacob Godserve, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. Thank you all so much. And all of our amazing patrons. We are working our asses off here. But first, we're going to talk about some video games. XDefiant. This game, I feel like I've heard about it, but it's got such a generic title that I can't tell. And now I realize it's made by Ubisoft San Francisco, which, I'll be honest, I didn't think they were making their own games down in that office, down on 2nd Street. This was like down the road from where, it's like 5 doors up from IGN, a couple blocks from GameSpot. They had a big PR marketing, so we know a bunch of people who worked there. Chris Waters, Giancarlo Veronini was there for years. Andy Bauman, who shot The Point with me at GameSpot. We know a bunch of those folks. And I knew they had dev there, but I thought they were usually integrated into everything else, like Watch Dogs, they were part of it and stuff like that. But apparently they're just going solo on this one. What is XDefiant, Jesse?
XDefiant is I would call it, maybe it's a little reductive, but I would call it like a Call of Duty style game with a little bit of Team Fortress mixed in there. So it's a competitive first-person shooter. It's like 6v6, I think, is the amount of players. I can't remember anymore. People just flying by me all the time.
Is it free to play?
It is free to play. Yeah, it's a totally free to play game. There's no like incentive to spend money, and that was kind of the thing that I liked the most about its monetization. Because when you go into a free to play game, I feel like right away you're thinking, how are they going to try to squeeze money out of you? But no, there's really nothing. I've never felt compelled to spend any money on it.
Is there a battle pass?
There is, but it's just cosmetics, and the cosmetics aren't even really all that good anyway. Like they're kind of just like skins for your guns, or like when you kill someone, you just get skin.
They should do that. They should do that in Zombies. In Call of Duty
I'm surprised
Zombies.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't have that.
Yeah, you unlock different skin. Yeah.
And you're just wearing a man's skin. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I guess
why not?
I guess you could end up in some problematic areas with that, depending on whose skin you're putting on. I
think you would start in some
problematic. I don't know if it depends. Yeah, exactly.
Just wade deeper into the problematic one. Yeah, you're right. Okay, fair. All right. Okay.
All right,
Anyway,
well,
sorry.
outside of the it's okay. Outside of the battle pass, God, now I'm just thinking about
Skin.
a skin that is
about it.
skin.
Think about it.
Yeah, there's not much to the battle pass, which is nice. But the gameplay is really fun. I did not expect to like it as much as I do. So this game got announced in like 2021, and there was a beta or an alpha, whichever one of those words we're using for it, that a bunch of streamers got to play, I think 2 years ago. And I saw some gameplay of it, and I was like, we have Call of Duty at home. I was like, we have, Team Fortress at home. I don't know if we need this. And then I played it 3-4 days ago, whenever it launched. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. It's free.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I don't like it, I uninstall it. It has like completely taken over my free time outside of like playing video games that I want to play on purpose. This is like if I want to hang with some buddies, or if I want to like grind out some challenges, or just do something kind of mindless but still enjoyable. This is really fun. So it's, like I said, it's a competitive first-person shooter where most of the game modes, there's about 5 game modes right now. They're all objective focused. There's one that's like domination. There's one that's like King of the Hill, and there's one they just put out a new one. It's like Kill Confirmed from Call of Duty, where you kill someone and then you have to get their tag, or they have to get your tag. So there's like a decent amount of modes. There's no like just regular team deathmatch or free for all or anything like that. So it's so it's fully objective focused. And I think that works really well with the design that they've done for the characters. So the characters that you pick, you're not just like some random soldier with whatever loadout that you want, although you do have a lot of loadouts and there's a decent amount of guns. There's like an AK-47 and a M4, and you can use a sniper rifle or a marksman rifle and everything. But the part of it that makes it stand out from Call of Duty, apart from it being more objective focused and there's like a payload, is you have characters you can pick from 5 factions. And all the factions are based on games and franchises that Ubisoft works on.
I was about to say, because I'm looking at some gameplay now, and I'm looking at this level and going, are they intentionally doing the Division level here, or did they just have some assets left over? Because if it's intentional, I think that's cool, because it looks like New York and it's snowing, and I was like, that's funny if there's like a Far Cry level or something like that.
Yeah, this is kind of their I would say it's sort of their first-person shooter Smash Bros. This is like their brand mush video game. And I think they do it actually in a pretty compelling way, because like they could have just done, you're playing as Rainbow Six Man and you can do whatever you want and shoot stuff.
Ding
but each
Chavez.
of the classes, love that guy. Is that really his name? Ding Chavez?
He was in the books. He was Ding Chavez, yeah.
Okay, there you go. I believe it.
He's in Rogue Spear.
So
he's OG.
Oh, classic. They're based on real books. I was like, they did a novelization of the game. Tom Clancy's a real person.
Tom Clancy wrote all those games.
But yeah, so all the classes have their own individual abilities. So the Phantoms from from Rainbow Six can shoot like shield walls down, or they have these big shields they carry around with them. Each class has like 2 things. Or you can play as the Libertad from Far Cry 6. And they're really fun, and they have like healing abilities that they can use. Or there's another one that's based on Ghost Recon called the Echelon, where you can play as like a stealth character where you go invisible, or you get an intel suit that like tells you where people are. And everyone has an ultimate. So like the Echelon will get Splinter Cell vision and can like see through walls, and they get one-shot pistols and everything. It's so good.
Is there any difference between, because you mentioned characters, so are the characters within those things different at all, or just cosmetically?
I thought that would be the case, but yeah, it's just cosmetic.
Okay,
it's just
but that's
for
all
visuals or whoever you want to play. Yeah, and you unlock those for free as well. They're just challenges.
And is your team like one of these factions, or can your team be made up of
team is made up of, and this is where the strategy comes from. The team is made up of 6 people picking whatever faction they want to pick. So if you want to have like 5 Echelon, you can do that. Then 1 like Phantom, you could totally do that. But the challenge becomes, now you have 5 people that are squishy. They tend to have less health, the Echelon, and then you also are more invisible, but like not totally invisible.
Right.
So there's like this rock, paper, scissors gameplay back and forth. It's sort of like Overwatch or like Team Fortress.
But instead of going for the sort of light, medium, heavy, it's more, I don't know, it seems like it's less that and more just like tactical considerations.
Yes, exactly. It's less of a spread of damage and size between the different characters. Like there's no gigantic character model or really small character model. Everyone's roughly the same.
There's no tank.
Has roughly the same speed. No, well there is like the Phantoms have the tank stuff, but they have slightly more health, like 1 more shot worth of health. So it's more about tactical consideration in the objectives, because it is so focused on like holding a position or moving a position forward, that if you're playing a class that maybe your opponents are all using snipers, you switch to the Echelon, you go around and you just like take them out, right? It just feels really good. I think if you're playing in a squad of like even 4 or 5, not even the full 6, you're gonna have a ton of fun with this one. XDefiant is, I'm having a blast with it, just playing solo. Even the community is as toxic as you would expect for people that like playing a Call of Duty similar style game, but it is still a blast, and the report system is really good. So use it.
What are you playing on? Because it is on Windows, PS5, and the Xbox Series.
Yeah, I'm playing it on a PC right now. You have to use the Ubisoft Connect client. I know. Oh, I have to download another piece of software. Oh, this is worse than anything I can imagine. The biggest problem in my life right now. But it's really not that big of a deal. You just download it and then download the game and play it. You'd have to download it anyway if it was on Steam. It's just lame. I'm with you. I think it sucks, but it's also not the biggest deal ever, right?
The reason why I don't like using the Ubisoft stuff is that Ubisoft is not fucking cool. Like,
no, sure.
Steam makes me feel like, hey, Steam's kind of a cool thing. Battle Pass or fucking Battle, what's it called?
Battle.net?
Fucking Warcraft. Thank you.
Yeah.
Battle.net is like an old thing. Nothing about the aesthetic of Ubisoft. I like a lot of their games, but nothing about their corporate aesthetic says anything to me except this is just lame corpo bullshit. And to a certain extent also, like, it's funny when you were mentioning all those factions from those games, I was like, I feel nothing about any of these factions and I've played a lot of these games. It's so, but that, I mean, I think there's just like I don't know, there's a certain sensibility when it comes to the way they tackle military stuff that I guess it's like, at least it's not, they do their best to stay away from like current military, contemporary feelings about military stuff, but like it's so generic feeling or something. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, I completely agree. It's the
doesn't matter.
Refusal to like approach politics or whatever, I think hurts their stories in those games as well. But also like it just ultimately, it's like the brand washing of war. It's like war as an aesthetic, unless it's like they don't even try to do anything fun with it. It's just like, what if Burger King employees had guns? That's how I feel like when I play any of the Rainbow Six games. It's just like regular people working for a brand who just happen to have weapons. So it is funny in that way.
So this is kind of like more of a Call of Duty to because Rainbow Six Siege still exists, but that obviously is way more like Counter-Strike sort of. I feel like it's even more tactical in some ways than CS is, with just like the amount of destruction and stuff. Is there any of that going on in these levels? Is there any like level destruction, any level evolution, or are they pretty Call of Duty-esque? Like, are they like, what's the size of the maps? Are they asymmetrical? What's it like?
Depends on the map that you're playing on. All of them are themed on, again, the games that they're using. Like you said, it's probably them taking assets and redesigning stuff. It's certainly not like just plopping you in an area from the Division. That wouldn't make any sense. It's a first-person shooter. It's not a third-person action game. But they definitely do a good job, I think, of making the scale make sense, because some of the maps are only for the payload objective where you have to move along a longer sort of linear track. And then some of them are more like King of the Hill, where there's a random spot that pops up along the map and you have to move between them. So some of them are smaller. There's one that's called Arena that it looks like I don't know what you'd call it. It looks sort of like a basketball court with a bunch of jungle gym stuff inside of it. It's really fun because it's like you're climbing on mats and like jumping on top of stuff, and there's like mascots and everything, and you can go in the locker room area and like fight in there. So that's all really fun. And there's one of them is like a carnival, and you have to move through the carnival area and get to the end, and that one's really fun. But there's no like destruction like Siege. You're not punching holes into anything. It's like Call of Duty, where you're trying to memorize, or maybe not memorize, but like get used to map setups so you know where to look for snipers, or you know where to look for whatever, right? So all that sort of stuff. And I think they do a good job of implementing a lot of stuff that makes you want to use your class's abilities more than just relying on using a sniper rifle or getting really good with your shotgun. Maybe you put like a shield down as Phantom and like block up a whole area that's a straight, or maybe there's a bunch of snipers and like you know where to look for them, so you go around and get them. It's
nice.
They do a good job of that.
Came out on May 21st, so last week at some stage. Apparently it got 1 million unique players within 2.5 hours. I don't know how this just shows you how big games are, that like I did not hear about this game coming out until you put it in the doc. I was like, I barely remember about what this game was at all. Obviously it must be pulling people over from COD maybe who are testing it out and trying to get a feel for it. But sounds interesting. I'm not sure if I've got room in my life for any of these types of games anymore. I've played so much COD over the years, and just it kind of is what it is. But when it's free to play, I guess it's when you have that crew that you play with as well, and you're looking for the new game, I can totally see it. Cool beans. Anything else on XDefiant? I think the name is terrible.
It's
the name
it's not
is bad.
Good. It's really bad.
I saw a logo when I was looking up images of it where it had the XD like circled like a smiley face. Like they had an XD face and then it said Defiant. And I was just the weird like it feels like a weird juxtaposition between like we're like operators. We like get in there and we get the job done and they're like XD LOL.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
I don't know this. I feel mean when I say things about Ubisoft. I think it's like the way that company is run, or like the sort of the huge nature of the teams. Probably you need to have a very strong like art style that people can probably grok on the team really closely or whatever. But like, look at games like XDefiant. Look at like all the Rainbow Six stuff that they've done since, you know, in the past like 10 years, let's say. And then look at the finals. Like the finals to me is like, it's a game that is obviously like it's doing stuff mechanically is different, but to me at least, and maybe this is just a subjective thing, but when you look at like the marketing for that game and the vibe of that game and the way that it is able to successfully marry sort of like, I don't know, fun and like internet culture and playing with your buddies with we have guns, and it just is wild to me that a studio that has been doing this for so long still can't come out with like a strong identifying game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean that's totally what they're doing with it too, right? Is they're banking off of their already existing brands, so they don't have to appeal to people with a new thing like the finals did. They can just say, "Did you like Far Cry 6? We don't have Giancarlo Esposito, but we do have Phil. Phil's here. He's got a gun and a healing
we got
canister.
the dog that's in the wheelchair. We got that little whatever his name. I think his name is Churro. I think
that's makes sense. That sounds like something Ubisoft would do.
Yeah, and a lot of these games are good. It's just the one thing I've always like, you know, the Far Cry titles have been, you know, I think some of them are better than others, sure, but like, you know, I think they're largely entertaining stuff. Assassin's Creed for, you know, all of the, I think they're too bulky now, but like they're well made. Like they know how to make games that are well made. I just feel like a lot of them don't have a heart to them, don't have anything that people can like get excited about tonally. I just feel like they're really out at sea with that stuff. So in a way, it's funny it's like when it's the same as like when a platform, when like, I don't know, Microsoft try and do a hero shooter or like something like that, and you're like, who are you pulling from? Or like Sega, you know, Sega, I guess it works, right? But like, it's a shame that they have to pull from a bunch of games that have very weak identities when it comes to their factions. It doesn't matter, obviously. It's just, I think it's a smart way of doing it, at least, because I thought it was cool that they had like the level that looked like the Division. I saw a level in there that did look like Far Cry 6 as well.
Oh, they also had the DedSec group in there as well. Sorry.
Oh, see, there you go. There you go. Watch Dogs 2 might be the exception that proves this rule, because Watch Dogs 2 did have a great, it had a great like vibe to it. It had memorable characters. The way the stuff was written was fucking weird. And also, I think like the marketing for that game, you know, wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but at least it had, at least when you saw it, you were like, oh, that's Watch Dogs 2. You know,
it got it. Yeah. You knew what you were looking at when you saw an ad for Watch Dogs, where I feel like if I see an ad for an update for Assassin's Creed or an update for Rainbow Six Siege, I'm like, hey, yeah, which game is this again? And then the logo pops up at the end. I'm like, oh, that one. Okay.
It's wild.
Cool.
Yeah. I forget. I feel like there's a million Ubisoft games I don't know exist anymore, or they got cancelled before they got released and I forgot. Like, if you told me XDefiant came out 5 years ago. Yeah, Skull and Bones, I guess Skull and Bones came out this year. Skull and Bones is out now, right?
It did.
Like,
it did.
It came out this year. It came out in January or February, I think.
Maybe a little later, but yeah.
It could all just be the nature of games, and you know, Ubisoft's successful company. They know that like these live service games is how it works, and maybe it's less about the big beat of the launch, and maybe it's more about the long tail. So sounds like it's a fun game anyway. For all the, you know, silly little surface level criticisms I have about Ubisoft's tone, I guess. But there you go, XDefiant. It must be working for somebody. 1 million people 2.5 hours into their opening day. Let's mix it up a little bit. Jeremy, you played Dungeons of Blood and Dream singular. Did you write that in wrong, or is that the name of it?
No, it is Dungeons plural of Blood singular and Dream singular.
Okay. This looks like a fucking nightmare.
Well, it's funny you say that, because let me tell you the story of Dungeons of Blood and Dream. It is a game where you play as a blood wizard who's trapped in a dream by some sort of mysterious entity.
Oh, wow.
mysterious entity who kind of looks like Andros from Star Fox 64.
Okay.
Is how he kind of looks like a weird like monkey man. But anyway, it's like I don't want to go too much into the lore, but one of the things I like about this game, before I even explain what the game is, on the front, like where there's like settings and quit and start the game, there's just a manual button, and the game has a like little in-game PDF manual that's like super crunchy old timey manual, and it has like a lore page about like the history of like the humans and the jesters, and like the humans had to create like puppet people to like, it's like this whole fucking, there's so much bizarre lore in this world, and that's kind of what I don't
fucking Devil May Cry or something.
It's no, it's like they're like golems or something. They're like homunculi. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Dungeons of Blood and Dream is I think the best way to explain it is it's like a Kingsfield roguelike.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
It kind of looks and feels like Kingsfield with a roguelike structure, but it's very fast. Like it's like it feels more like Quake almost. Like it's like an arena dungeon crawler. You're kind of like moving very quickly, and there's a lot happening, and it's very chaotic, and the enemies move very quickly. So kind of like Binding of Isaac, you move into a room. Sometimes the doors seal behind you, and there's like this purple electricity blocking the doors, and you have to kill all the enemies in the room before you can leave. But the combat is like, I at first I was kind of like, oh, it's kind of like a little like floaty, and I'm kind of just doing that thing where I like stab with the sword and run in and then run out, and you're kind of just like trying to
Right.
not get hit. And it is that, but as the game kind of revealed itself to me, I found that there was more strategy to it. There's like a cast that acts as your shield, and then there's a magic system that can like augment and change that. And the magic system is really interesting. You use your scroll wheel, and these different little like sigils appear in your hand, and you crush them, and it takes some of your health, your blood.
Oh.
And then if you do that in the right order with the different symbols, like if you do, I'll get you started here. One of them is sun, moon, sun, sun. It takes like 4 charges of your health away, but then it does a spell. And the spells are not taught to you. You find them in the world on parchment paper.
This is like Arx Fatalis then.
It totally has like an Arx Fatalis feel to it. It feels like this game is trying very hard to like make things in the world diegetically. Like it's not like there's not like a little tooltip that pops up and it's like, don't forget to like cast magic with the sun button. You'll like find a scroll on the ground and it's like, I've been trapped in the dream for 6 years. And like it's very like it's very deadpan, and it's very like what's the word? It's like immersed in itself, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And so like all of that interesting on its own right, but on like if this game was just very straightforward dungeon fantasy, I think I'd be into it. But it's like weird, like psychedelic cruelty squad bizarro fantasy, and it's like
the visuals I feel like you need to sell a bit, because I was Frank who mentioned Cruelty Squad I think in the meeting yesterday or something, or maybe you did, I don't know. The minute you said that I was like, I am checking this out, and it was like, oh yeah, like the enemies are just like crazy colors, and like there's a neon green outline on things, and like the
logo looks like a metal band shirt logo. Like,
yeah, that like a 15-year-old made.
Yeah, it's awesome. It like, this is a weird comparison. I mean, this when I say this, it's gonna sound like this is a compliment.
Okay.
Sometimes when I play this game, I feel like I'm playing one of those 90s screensavers where it's just like, it's like a first-person camera that just moves through a 3D maze. Sometimes I feel like I'm playing like the version of that game that I always pretended I was playing in the school computer lab when you would just sit and watch that.
Right.
And I mean that in the best way, Paul. I really do sincerely mean that as a compliment. It's these very bizarre kind of like looping tile sets that are just textured. Like you'll just walk through a hallway and it's just like this like fucking movie theater popcorn yellow hallway that's just like scrolling by you like the fucking 2001: A Space Odyssey tunnel. It's just a bizarre, weird, fun little game. And the thing that is kind of like keeping me going is there's an upgrade system, which I think is very necessary because as I progressed more in the game and got to later worlds, I was getting my ass kicked. My sort of like mid-late game. This is early access, by the way, so I don't know how big this game is right now. But I got to the third world, and it gets fucking crazy. Like there's like so many dudes in the room, and there's like destroyable walls, and like there's like dudes moving around, they're destroying the walls, and it's like making sounds, and I'm just trying to like block the little imps from stabbing me with spears. But yeah, it's like it gets so chaotic that you really do. I feel like the upgrades are necessary to beat the game. Like it feels like a rogue light. You know what I mean? Like you need the upgrades.
And yeah, is it like when you die, do you go back to zero, or is it a when you die, can you load a save game? Do you go back to the start of the level? Do you keep what's the story?
Yeah, so you go back to zero in the sense that most of the things you got in the run are negated, but there are certain things you get on the run that carry over. One of them are I think they're called dream spheres or dream orbs, because you're in the dream. So
Sure.
when you die, a little pop-up comes up. It says harvested, and then you get a little choice between keep dreaming or wake up. And if you wake up, you're in this like the crunchiest looking room I've ever seen in my life, and this is the prison that the Andross has put you in. And there are these, and he has done you the great service of giving you the kindness, the merciful act of giving you statues of your primitive gods that he doesn't believe in you, and almost like kind of like mockingly, like he's like, yeah, here's like your fucking little dumb idols. But if you go up to them, they're like, if you bring me 5 dream spheres, I'll like do this, I'll upgrade this, I'll upgrade this.
Man.
So there is like a hub world where it's like your little prison, and I think it's like one of the things I like about this game is it's doing a lot with a little. Like it's very minimalist. It doesn't feel like a huge game. But little design choices, like the fact that in the hub world, when you go to the door, obviously it's a prison, so you're gated in. But you look out and you can see like outside, and it's like it looks like it's like raining blood out there or something. And so presumably at some point I will escape the dream and open my prison that Andross has put me in. And I want to like know what's out there and stuff. So it has these little like diegetic touches that imply more world beyond the game.
So cool. The whole setup of like it's of escaping is kind of underused a little bit. Like like Arx Fatalis is a good example, or like it happens in the start of games a lot where like you're trying to escape and then you're into the open world, or you've got more agency or whatever. But like even games like Bloodborne, which you're in a freaky place, like you have decided to go there, right? Like you're a hunter, you're going into Yarnum, you're doing the whole thing. You're not like fleeing, trying to get out of there. And like The Binding of Isaac's a good example of a game that does that, right? Where you're trying to get out, right? Hades to a certain extent, although you live there, so it's not like it's
but
that's
the
a
loop
good
is
example,
leaving, though, right?
Yeah. What I'm speaking to is more the sense of fear that you want to get out, which I think like it sounds really cool about this, where you're Jeremy's looking at you get sent back to your fucking prison, and you're like scared to go forward, but also you don't want to go back either. Like that sounds like an interesting little soup they got going on there.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think it's like if I recall correctly, it was like version 0.1. So this is early access. It's very early days. Presumably more will get added. And I am curious to see where it goes. I think it's like $16, which I feel like is pretty fair. I don't know. Some people might find that a little steep for. I don't know how big this game is, but it feels worth it to me. But
Excellent.
Yeah, it's really cool. It just also has like the thing. This is kind of like my summary point of why I think this game is worthwhile. It's doing something when I play a game, I kind of try to like I look at the game, I look at a couple images, I read like a one sentence about it, and what my mind does is try to like imagine what that game would be like to play, imagine what that experience is like. And the thing that I like about this game is that it's so like grokkable in the sense that I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a weird psychedelic arena dungeon roguelike. But when you get into the game, it is implying that there is so much more to it. Like you're like finding characters in the dungeons, you're finding like a little note that says like his name starts with this letter, and you're like, oh, and then there's an in-game notebook and you write it down, and like it's doing a lot of things that I think roguelikes don't often do, because I think roguelikes often embrace a very arcadey sense of game design, and I think that this game is a dungeon crawling roguelike that borrows a lot more from like grand fantasy RPGs, which gives it a grander feel.
Oh, right, yeah. Interesting stuff. There you go, folks. Dungeons of Blood and Dream. Love the name. Check it out on Steam. Look at the disgusting screenshots and jump straight in. I actually wanted to read out Frank, do you want to read out are you on go to the Steam page for Dungeons of Blood and Dream. I'd love to hear Frank Kelly read the description of this game, because this might be, if I knew nothing about this game and somebody read this description, I think this might be enough for me.
Let's see. Yeah, it's I'm trying to scroll over to it.
Dungeons of Blood and
Well, you pull that up. Let me explain one more thing, actually. That
Sure.
There's so much to talk about with this game, even though it's like a small game. There is the other interesting thing about this game is that there is a ring system.
I was so
where-
curious about this. I saw the
Yeah.
screenshot,
Yes.
and yeah.
So you find these rings in the game, and you don't and rings and potions in the game. You don't know what they do. So you'll find a ring that's like, this is like the slime ring, or you'll find a potion and it's like, this potion smells like vanilla and mushrooms, and
Oh, wow.
and it says effects unknown, and you're like, dude, do I drink it?
Can
Do
I just
put it
go to
on?
the fandom page, or
You can, but you'd be doing yourself a great disservice.
probably doesn't exist for a game like this, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So you drink it, and immediately it's like your vision turns green. You feel ill, like your attack speed has gone up, and you're like, oh shit, okay, now I know that if a potion smells like like seawater and cheese, this is what it does. And the rings also have a similar thing, but the rings have different effects on different fingers, which I think is so interesting.
Oh, man.
So there's this bespoke UI of like two creepy sorcerer hands that come up, and you put the ring on, and
You
it's
just look like a pimp. You got like fucking 8 rings on. Like,
yeah, you're like a weird like blood sorcerer pimp. So anyway, I really like that idea of like like an Isaac or something, the like combinatory effects of what modifiers will I get on this run. I think it's a very interesting diegetic way of doing that.
Balatro.
Or Balatro.
yeah.
I have one
won
question
5
about the
games
rings.
in a row.
Oh, hey,
Balatron.
congrats.
I was going to say
You're-
that.
you're
5 in a row.
cracked
I
at
could not
Balatron.
believe
Look
this
at him
beautiful
go.
picture.
I'm almost done getting all the gold sticks. If you not to one up you, but I'm very proud of myself. Why do you lose fingers in Dungeons of Blood and Dream?
There's there are shrines in the world where it's like, if you like sacrifice some blood to me for a boon, and it's like a weird dude's head with like a blood bowl in front of his mouth.
He's like, you want to join the Yakuza?
Yeah. If you dishonor your Yakuza sergeant, they have to take your fingers off. No, it's one of them is like, you sacrifice fingers. I was too chicken shit to do it, so I didn't lose any fingers. But
Nice.
yeah, you could sacrifice fingers for some benefit. I can't remember what it was.
Frank, roll us out of here.
Play as a mighty blood wizard on a quest to escape a death loop of psychedelic dungeons, slay disgusting creatures using a large array of bladed weapons and unnerving spells, harness the power of cursed rings, find mysterious treasures, and learn the secrets of the universe you are trapped in.
Smashing. Great job, Frank. Terrific use of adjectives there. Disgusting creatures and unnerving spells. I love it. Dungeons of Blood and Dream. Frank, let's stay with you. We are going to talk about RKGK. Is it called that, or is it called Rakugaki? I don't know. What's the name?
Yeah, so it's titled RKGK / Rakugaki. So Rakugaki
Okay.
is probably how you say it.
This is made by Wasabi Games. I keep wanting to call it Wasabi Games. Published by that are based in Mexico City, I believe. It was published by Gearbox Publishing. Probably a rough time to be doing that, because they sacked a bunch of their people and renamed themselves. So Gearbox Publishing, or at least Gearbox Publishing SF. I'm not sure if this is a different part of Gearbox Publishing. I don't know if it is, or if there is one. But yes, what is this game? It looks absolutely gorgeous and weird and kind of like a Frank Howley game, because is she surfing or skateboarding or something? What's going on?
Yeah, this game seems, I feel very targeted when I saw this game, where it's like, it's everything I like. It's you're skating on rails like you're Sonic, you're spray painting like Jet Set Radio, you got melee combat like Hi-Fi Rush. The studio's based in South America, but it's very kawaii Japanese. You can even play the game in Japanese audio. So I have Japanese voice acting on in English, and like it's less of a like extreme sports thing, kind of like Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, and more of a like 3D platformer, kind of like even Ratchet and Clank. There's no shooting, but it is like melee attacking. So the prep, there's like a lot that goes on in a single stage. What I like about this game is it's perfect on Steam Deck. Every level takes like 5 to 10 minutes, and
cool.
The stages are pretty linear. They're still open areas, and there's a lot of verticality. But in a single stage, you are going through collecting coins. You are tagging like 12 spots. You can collect. There's like collectibles to get. You can also speed run levels. So almost like a Tony Hawk thing. When you beat a level, there's like different objectives you can cross off. So speed run the level, collect all the tag things, kill all the robots in a single stage. My first run through, I'm kind of just going through and enjoying it. But yeah, it feels like as I'm playing it, it reminds me of playing Tony Hawk's Underground 2 on PSP. Like lying in bed on my Steam Deck playing it. It moves good. It feels great. It doesn't feel like it has the like production levels as like Hi-Fi Rush or Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, but this is still pretty solid.
It still looks really good. I don't know, the gameplay trailers, it looks really good. There's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of, what was the game, the first person speedrunning game
Neon
where you were
White.
doing Neon White. I'm getting a Neon White vibe from this, where it's a lot of floating platforms. You're trying to like traverse the level, but you're also doing objectives within it.
So even kind of it kind of also reminds me of like that game Roller Drome that came out last year, where it's like a lot of like, okay, I'm also doing this, but I'm also keeping this. But it's pretty casual and calm. Like it's not too crazy. There's even when you start, you can play like modern or like retro difficulty. Retro difficulty is like you have 3 hearts, and then when you die, that's it. Modern is if you die, you just reset a bit. It's fine. It's really pretty. It's very kind of has that cell shaded look. It's really nice on Steam Deck. It runs at 60. It's good.
It's only $20 as well.
And so it's only $20. The other fun thing with it is the movement. It's bizarre because it's not roller skates, but it's almost like Splatoon. When you press R2, your character spray paints and they propel themselves using spray paint. So,
that's
but
cool.
similar to Splatoon, when you hit R2, you go into the squid form and you're sliding. It's kind of like that. You can also
take that, ozone layer.
You have like a robot that you can hover with. So there's a lot of fun movement stuff. So yeah, if you once the controls and stuff click, you really can surf around the whole level, killing robots, tagging stuff. There's boss battles that feels very like Jak and Daxter. Like it feels like a great PS2 game. It's really genuinely charming. And then the extra level where I was like, oh god, this game has everything for me. Like Hi-Fi Rush, whatever. There's a hub world that you can change outfits and stuff. You can straight up have a luchador outfit. So my character has a luchador with a cat mask and everything, and their melee weapon's a steel chair. And it's like this. I don't know if they made this game just for me. But I mean,
it was made in Mexico City, Central America, where presumably they were like, let's get some. I'd love to know, like, if there's any other, when you're never sure if like a developer in a country is actually putting in a bunch of stuff you don't really even recognize it as from there. But yeah, it's got such a great look to it. Really interesting. Or so you're playing on Steam Deck? You said, is it out on anything else?
And that's the thing, is like I would love to play this on PS5 on a big TV and really like appreciate it. Like I did play on Steam Deck. When I put it on PC, it looks way better than Steam Deck. Like there's lots of settings you can mess with, but yeah, it's solid. I will say I've already run into a few bugs where randomly there's some stages where I can't tag the thing, so it is like messing up my completionist brain a bit, but I'm like, you know what, that's fine. So hopefully they've already addressed it in the Steam forums, like they're looking into it. As of now, writing it only has 80 reviews, mostly positive. So I don't think anyone knows about this game. I found out about it through a targeted Instagram ad, and I was like, what the hell? This is crazy. Like it's the only time an Instagram ad has ever worked. I was like, what the hell?
I was gonna say that's like the most usually targeted ads for me are like I order like a toothbrush online, and they're like, do you need to have all your teeth drilled out of your head? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I gave this game the benefit of doubt, and like, I'm charmed by it. Again, it's if there's a game that's anything resembling Jet Set Radio, I have to try it. And this passes the test. I like it, and I think as a Steam Deck game, it's perfect because every stage is like 5 to 10 minutes. It's there's six worlds, and every world has like 6 stages. You're jumping on like neon skyscrapers and stuff like that. So it's it's pretty cool and fun. So I like it.
RKGK Rakugaki. Maybe the name's not helping. I don't know. Maybe that's
Rakugaki means doodle in Japanese, doesn't it? Or like
doodle.
Draw.
Okay, which
or
I guess that's
graffiti.
what she's doing.
I think isn't it? A term
graffiti,
for
right?
Or something?
Probably literally graffiti. That makes more sense given it's a game about.
I think you're right though. When I looked up Rakugaki, I got a lot of like little scribbly drawings as well.
Oh, okay.
Right. and I just pick one. I don't know. Like, why is there a slash in the name? I don't whatever. Anyway, I feel like I don't want to be here just saying like, oh, that game sounds great, and here are some like really stupid marketing reasons why I think it's bad this week.
They should hire you. These have been
fucking.
There's good feedback for Ubisoft and for Rakugaki.
Especially when it's marketing based, it's always unbelievably subjective then, because it's just like what works for me. I actually did get another Instagram direct marketed game that I did check out the Steam page for. I ultimately didn't grab it, but I was like, oh, that's crazy. Do you know what also as well has happened to me a lot, and this is crazy, is I never use the like For You tab on Twitter because it's usually like surfaces a bunch of bullshit. I've been finding it really useful for people surfacing Steam games recently.
Oh, really?
I don't know what's going on, but I'll go on there every like 3 or 4 days, I'll hit it, and then a bunch of interesting wish list games will be there. I'll be like, yep, and which didn't pop up on my feed otherwise. So I don't know. Maybe the algorithm's figuring some shit out. But that's RKGK Rakugaki, available on Steam, $20. Wabi-Sabi Games. Shout out to them in Mexico City, not New Mexico. Gearbox Publishing published. I'm very interested in what that was like for them. Let me quickly get my stuff out of the way because I had a weird week. I hooked up my virtual reality because my daughter kept asking about it. We went to the local bowling alley, and there was like a SpongeBob SquarePants ride in the arcade where you stick on, the pink eye goggles that other kids have been using, and it's like, it was just like a little it's like 2-person, so I sat down with her. A little roller coaster, SpongeBob SquarePants, and then there's they were like blowing air in your face, which is confusing because it's supposed to be underwater, but it gives you the feeling of like being on the roller coaster. And she was like, that's amazing. And I was like, we have VR at home. And she was like, what? And I was like, it's not like this. It's not like, you sit down. It's like, it's different. So she'd been asking me to do it for a while. We set it up and she adores it. She's like, she doesn't play that many games. She sits on my lap and we play games together sometimes, but she doesn't use the controller yet. She's not really interested in it at the moment, so I'm not going to force it or anything. But she was really into VR. We played a bunch of stuff. It's kind of hard for her because a lot of it's like she's too short. Like, I guess I could change the settings and stuff, but like Job Simulator, she couldn't see a lot of stuff because it was just on a desk. She's only
well, you're not supposed to get her started on child labor, man.
If she was working at 7-Eleven, right? She would have the same experience.
She was sitting down behind the like grocery store level in that game. Just she figured out that you could just, if she put her face up to things, she would eat them. So she was sitting on the ground behind the register, just pulling food down on the ground and walking around like a dog eating the fucking hot dogs and shit. It was the funniest thing. She was like laughing, cackling to herself. She was like, this is amazing. So she did that. The game though that she got really into, which I thought was very cool, was this free game or app, I don't know what you call it, called the Museum of Other Realities. And it's basically a sort of an art, like a 3D art exhibit type place that you go into. And I think a lot of it is community created stuff. So I was kind of keeping my eye on it a little bit. But you walk in at the start and there's a big sort of 3D map in front of you. And you can, she's learning how to read at the moment. She's pretty good at it. She's not very fast yet. But she was like going to ones. One was called like Ghosts. And she was like, no, I don't want to do that. One of them was called something else. And then you go in and it's literally just like interesting spaces. But it was really cool for her because she gets to just like walk around in these areas, and like, one might be like a big room full of trees, and then in the middle of it there's like a miniature of it, but then she could transport into that and become small and then be in the small one looking at the big one. She really liked that. There was a couple of interactive ones, like there was this very cool, it's her favorite thing to go back to do, a very cool what would you call it? Like, imagine a bunch of floating colorful balls, but they're attracted to like a sort of a set, like a point in the air that's like pulling them gravitationally, right? So they're all just sort of like, orbiting or like spasming towards this central point. And they're quite, when they're not moving that much, they're quite desaturated. And then when you strike them and hit them, they will vector away from that point and fly into the air and gain loads of color. So she's just sitting there, like basically just like almost like packing peanuts, flinging these into the sky, and then they come back down to her, and she was like lying on the floor and smacking them and stuff. So it was really cool. It was like a really great way of like, play to a kid can mean so many different things, and having like a regimented order of things you need to do, which is what so much of games as we play them is. Like Little Kitty Big City is very much like, here are some jobs. And to her, oftentimes that's not fun, because it's like, why am I doing the jobs the game is telling me to do? That's not, she doesn't have the feeling of, at the end of this, there will be a satisfying reward. To her, it's just like, that's just like a chore. Why am I doing that? Whereas in this game, she was like, I don't know, she was able to do shit you can't when you're 5. Walk around a museum on your own and see what the fuck's going on. And it was really cool. I had a lot of fun this week, just like throwing the headset on her head, and she was really able to intuitively use everything. I've got the Valve Index here. The only problem was she, when you're using that thing and it's got the cord and you sort of like, you subconsciously step over it, she does that. But the other thing she does is she only ever spins in one direction.
Oh,
so
she's tied up in it.
Like after 20 minutes, the cord is just like fucking shrunk because it's just coiled itself up. And I was like, it was so hard to tell, because I want to tell her to like spin the other way in a different, because she doesn't know. She's not like consciously doing it. So I thought that was kind of cool. But because she did that, I went and played the opening 3 hours of Half-Life Alyx again, and that game was fucking amazing.
It's so good, man. It's one of the greatest games of all. Like, I even like hate to talk about it because so many people don't have VR, and like,
why?
I don't know. Like, I don't want to advise people to get an HMD just for Half-Life Alyx, because that's an insane cost of entry. Like, I wouldn't have played it if you hadn't given me an indexed index.
I forget which I gave you the Vive index.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
If you hadn't given me the Vive that Noclip owned to play it on, I would never have played it. And it was like, it's like one of my favorite games. It's one of my favorite Half-Life games of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking insane.
It's bizarre. Like, I don't like picking which one's better between Half-Life 1 and 2. And having played Half-Life Alyx, I don't like picking which one is better, Half-Life 1, 2, or Alyx.
The fact that it's even like in the conversation is insane.
It's unbelievable. It's so good. And it's just, I'm with you. It's like, it happened again. I tweeted about it and people were like, I'd love to play it, but it's a game that costs $1,000 basically. And there
or even if you
some...
have a Meta Quest or whatever, right? Like, you can plug those into your computer, but you still have to have a pretty good computer to get it to run at a decent frame rate, right? So.
It's a shame. It's such a good game, and it's such a good mechanical game, and it's also like an essential Half-Life game. Like, it's by the time the credits roll in that game, it is not like some little fucking side story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what's so powerful about the whole thing, is like,
it has affected the franchise. Yeah. Whatever's next, it's going to be like, that was part of it.
It's so cool. So I was planning on going through and doing the commentary. That was going to be my sort of thing, but I just loved playing the game again. So I was just like, I want to play through all this shit, and then I'll do the commentary for I think I'll do the commentary for Jeff. Do you remember Jeff? I haven't done Jeff.
Jeff's so
fuck,
good.
Man. Jeff might be like the best
games.
level in VR history.
Oh yeah, I think it's the best experience I've had in VR.
It's and like we can't talk. I should fucking. We know those guys a bit better now. We did that Half-Life doc on secret tape. I should pull some of these guys aside and be like, look, can we talk about Jeff?
We should just do a doc on
Jeff. Do a Noclip and just do it on Jeff.
That's actually so good. I would watch that.
Such a good level. If you want to know what Jeff is, just fucking Google Jeff. It's a level that's in. I don't know what the name of the level is. It might
Jeff. I think it's called Jeff.
I think the level might be called Jeff.
Yeah.
And it is. Yeah, it is like one of the best Half-Life levels, hands down, and it's it's so funny. Oh, it's so funny. It's so scary and funny at the same time. It's so stupid.
It has. Again, I'm not even going to allude to any specifics, but it has.
Yeah, or you know what? Let's give ourselves let's talk about it for skip ahead 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it a bit, because it's so fucking good.
It has one of the greatest game design realization moments ever in my entire life, where I was like, oh, thank God, thank God. And then it slowly dawns on you that you have to go from the safe refuge you've achieved back into danger. And the feeling of dread in my stomach was like, I was just dying laughing, because it was it got me so fucking good. I was like, I can't believe you're doing this. It's brilliant.
Yeah. It's so good. There's a mechanic when you start playing Half-Life Alyx where and it happens a lot when you have an itchy nose or something, where you touch your face, but you've got one of the controllers in your hands, and Alyx puts her hand to her mouth. And I was like, oh, why the fuck does she do that? She does that because of Jeff. because Jeff will hear you and Jeff will come and you have to like, Jesus Christ. And there's something about
the first time I tried to do the mouth covering thing, I still had my controller in my hand and I got a little too close and I smacked myself in the face while in the headset with the controller, which was kind of
when
funny.
you're just like you're in VR, you've got one hand on your mouth, you're like turning your head in real life to see Jeff coming, and you're reaching over to get like a glass bottle in the shelf above his head.
Yeah.
And then trying to like fling it over him without like hitting anything else. Like all the times you accidentally like VR smash, like you're about to throw a bottle or something. Let's say a bottle. And you accidentally smash it against like the
wall
right
behind you.
beside you. Yeah, behind you. You do that and it does that. You just like, it's so funny and scary at the same time.
Yeah, it's
Holy
like
shit.
it's like a fucking like like a Buster Keaton bit or something.
100%.
You're like and then it just smashes behind you and the monster looks straight at you. Yeah, it's like Half-Life Alyx is so good that I feel like we need to have like federally funded stations where people can go play it in public, because I feel like VR is like there are a handful of VR experiences that I've had that I think are cool and worthwhile. Most of them I either don't connect with or just find it to be like novelties or like vaguely kind of like interesting in passing. But like, yeah, I feel like this game affected me. It was the first time ever where I was like, oh, should I like learn to make VR? Like, is this the future? Like, is this important? And it's a shame that, you know, the past 4.5 years or whatever since it came out, 4 years, there hasn't really been anything to even come close.
Yeah, and who knows if there ever will be. It's just such a fantastic little piece of work. Really amazing. Way better than it needed to be or had any right to be. I really feel, yeah, it's so strong. I just did the whole part in the sewers where you had to get the shotgun off of the hanging zombie.
yeah.
It's like, and yeah, you have to like ratchet the thing and then stick the piece of plastic in. Like, it's so tactile. Like, that game is so, it's not like you're just like doing puzzles. It's like you have to find the spot and put the pipe back in, and because of the feedback on the things, which you mightn't have had with the Vive, but because you get a little bit of that haptic shit, it's like that's all helpful as well. It's such a great little game.
Even the gravity gloves. Oh, when you
the
like
gravity gloves are it's so satisfying
good.
to like flick something. Yeah, and there were
It's annoying when you leave the headset and like you use the glove in real life. You're like, oh shit, right? No, I can't do that.
VR has that effect on me where like, or the other thing is it changes the way that I like look at screens. Like when I look at a computer monitor after I'm in VR, after I played Half-Life Alyx, most of it in one day, I sat down on my computer at night and my eyes kept trying to perceive depth in my monitor. And I was like, this is so fucking strange that like, I don't know, VR is like a, it's like a drug. I don't know. There's something about it that is very all consuming and mind altering.
I remember when at the start of the game, before you get your first upgrade for the gun, you don't have like the laser sight, which does or like a hollow sight that sort of, it actually like highlights the parts you should shoot a little bit. Before that, I remember being and looking in the iron sights and being like, this is hard. And like realizing if I close one eye, just like in real life, I'll actually be able to get that angle. And like being like, how the fuck does that work? Or like in the morning, I still think it's trippy. I understand the science behind it, but I still think it's insane that whenever I want to do VR, I have to put my contact lenses in. Like the screen is in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
I shouldn't need my contact lenses.
I also was confused by that because when I played Half-Life Alyx for the first time, I couldn't fit my original glasses. These ones do fit, which I was surprised that these ones fit in the headset. But I was looking that up. I was like, why? Because the screen's right in front of my eyeballs. Shouldn't I be able to just see it? I was like, is it my brain believes I need glasses? There's like a small lens I had to look up the science of it because I was so confused. There's a small lens inside of the headset that actually projects the screen roughly 2 meters in front of you. Each one has a different amount. It's like 4.8 feet on the Meta Quest 3 or something like that.
Oh, cool.
But it's like, it like projects it and makes your brain think that it's that far away. So you have to put your glasses on to bend the light again. It's just, that's
because you're focusing on different. It's so bizarre. But yeah, what a great game. So anyway, we got to talk about Half-Life Alyx again one more time.
I haven't played Half-Life Alyx in years now, but I have heard that there are very good like full campaigns made by community members, like mods. So I would like to go back and just see what's up with those.
Half-Life 1's all in VR now too.
Oh, really?
Community thing,
Really? Okay, I've got to play that then. I did download. There was a couple of people on Twitter who are, I think, Noclip community members who pointed me at some of the ones. One of them was actually somebody who made one, and I've added them all to my thing, but I haven't jumped into them yet. But I definitely want to check that stuff out. Yeah, it's pretty cool that folks did that. If there's a Half-Life 1 one as well, I'll definitely do that. That'll be very fucking strange. I can't wait to stick my face in Barney's head for no reason. That's my daughter's like favorite thing to do. She was like, she's like, dare me to put my head in this wall. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I dare you. And then she goes in and she goes, whoa. And I'm like, you know what that's called? You know what that's called? She's like, what? Anyway, you know, we gotta get her. You know, a couple of years she'll be doing work for the crew. So we gotta get her learned up on that stuff. Jesse, let's talk about Nine Souls first of all. This is a kind of a quick hit, I think, because you've only played a little bit of it this morning. This is a game. One of you guys, either you or Jeremy, were talking
Definitely
about
Jeremy.
a while ago. Jeremy, it's Red Candle, so it's that crowd from Taiwan that had the game taken off of Steam a number of years ago. Was it Devotion or something?
I think it was Devotion.
called?
Yeah, it had like a
Yeah.
meme image of Xi Jinping as Winnie the Pooh in it or something.
Yes. Presumably there is no Winnie the Pooh in Nine Souls. What is Nine Souls? It looks beautiful, but what's the gameplay in this game, Jesse? And how are you finding the opening hour or so?
Yeah, so Nine Souls is a action. Man, I love it. I already love it. I'm like an hour in. I'm already like thinking. I'm like, when is this podcast gonna be over so I can go back and play it? It's it's a 2D action platformer. It plays like a Metroidvania. Let's just call it what it is. And it's all hand-drawn art. It's done in the world's in like a cyberpunk. What are they? Dowpunk?
Dowpunk,
Towpunk,
yeah.
right?
Dowpunk as in like Taoism.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it's pulling from
yeah.
East
Look at
Asian
that.
mythical stories and visuals, and there's a lot of that stuff in there. So it plays, yeah, like a Metroidvania where you're looking for items, you're coming up on different parts of the map that you can't get to until you can see that you need something that you don't have, so you leave that and come back later. The combat's like melee focused, so you have a small sword that you use to attack enemies that are close to you. You have a dodge, you have a jump. It's, you've played one of those before. It's all like that. But it's not overly challenging in the combat sections. I don't really find myself having too much trouble. Maybe that's because I'm cracked. Maybe it's just a little easier. Who's to say? But I'm having a lot of fun with it, I think, because for a handful of reasons. The big two being, one, the art style is absolutely gorgeous. Like, it is a really good looking video game. It's all hand drawn, like I said, and you can see it right away. The art, the color, the character designs, there's portraits that pop up when you have conversations with characters, and their expressions are really well done.
Did you ever play Laika Aged with Blood?
Yes. Aged
That's
Through Blood.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah, This is the sort of side-scrolling biker,
Yes, yeah.
like platformer game. It kind of giving me little vibes of that, the art style a bit.
It's very similar for sure. The gameplay is different. Obviously, you're not playing as on a motorbike, but that one was kind of a Metroidvania too, sort of, right? I enjoyed that one a lot. I thought Laika was great.
Yeah, it was great.
The story for that was really good. But yeah, art style wise, it's very similar to that. It looks like, and like it did as well, Nine Souls looks like a manga, and that's totally what they're going for. There are actually moments, narrative moments that happen that are sort of pivotal. One of them's a huge spoiler, so I won't say what it is. But there was like a moment pretty early on that where the story, you can tell something's happened, and like there's been a tonal snap, and you're like, oh shit. And they pop up this manga panel, and it's like, it looks so good, it looks like something that they stole. Like, that's how good it looks. Where I'm like, is this like, did you just copy something from a PDF of a manga and just put it in your game?
Right.
It, like, I was stunned how good it looked. So that's one part of it. And the other part of it is the world and the exploration and the way that they've set things up. So quickly the world goes from like this nice sort of foresty rural area, and then something happens and you're in a different place. It's cyberpunk focused, so you can kind of guess maybe what sort of place you end up in. And I might have some gameplay footage if you're watching the video version, which might spoil it. Look for it from the screen if you don't want to know. I don't know. But the setting in the world is really interesting because like it's doing a lot of stuff that I wasn't expecting it to do pretty quickly. And also the stuff it's doing is like culturally, I've never seen a lot of it. Not Jeremy, sorry. Well, Jeremy, you did talk about this game a bunch, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it when you get to play it. But Danny, you did an interview with, this is for a Dear Dwyery that's not out yet, with one of the leads on Pacific Drive.
Yes.
And in that interview, you talked to him about Stalker and how Stalker gets a lot of free points for being culturally defined by a place that a lot of Western people don't know a lot about, right? And I think Nine Souls gets away with a lot of that as well. It's not like, it's not specifically Taiwanese folk. You're not walking around in Taiwan, but like just the culture of it and the aesthetic is something that I don't really see a lot of in the games that I play. So getting to
So it
play
has
Nine
like a
Souls,
freshness and
yes,
like a curiosity with it or something.
yeah, and it's not just in the presentation of it. Like, it's not just good looking and I want to know more about it. It's like you can tell that this is based on something that I don't know anything about because I'm culturally ignorant or I haven't been exposed to it enough. Maybe both. So it's cool to see it. I want to play more of it, and the lore that's there, you're like, everything that you interact with, like when you go to save, like it plays like a Metroidvania, but it plays more like Hollow Knight style Metroidvania, or even like a Souls like Metroidvania, where when you die, you drop your resources where you died, so you have to go pick them up, right? But the thing that you rest at is like a lotus flower or something. Like, I can't remember what the word for it was. I only played an hour of it this morning. But it's just, there's so many things where you can tell this is based on something, and I want to know more about it right away, just from the way they represent it. And
because I feel like Red Candle, I feel like the other games that they were talking about were very much like about the Taiwanese experience.
Detention had like a historical backdrop based in real history, and then Devotion had like a very strong sort of like religious and cultural, like the intersection of like family life and religious kind of duty and tradition and dogma. So yeah, no, that's one of the things that interests me the most about Nine Souls is like, I mean, like we were saying earlier, like when you look at a game, you're like, what's the flavor of this game? What's the experience is going to be? And I think just being like, oh yeah, I've never played, like this is something that is outside of my experience, and it's also a Metroidvania. So it's like, it reminds me of, I think it's a Scorsese quote where he was like, if you want to say something important in a movie, put it in a genre flick. So like if you want to make a movie about gentrification, make like a hard-boiled detective, or like a horror movie, and then make it about like something important. And I feel like this is a cool example of that, where it's like, oh, I like Metroidvanias on like a very visceral, just like face value level, and then like having this whole cultural dimension open up through that.
And then you get Trojan horsed into like reading some book you would have never read, basically. I love that stuff.
The Matrix just like got a bunch of people into metaphysics by just wrapping it in something totally different.
The Matrix, the original Dowpunk film.
We'll have more to say on Nine Souls next week, probably once we've all had a bit more time to play it. It's available now. It's not necessarily cheap either, $27. So we'll, indie games, we're spoiled these days with our cheap games that are very good. So, but we'll have more to say on it. Probably next week, I imagine. Let's do a little throwback here for Frank. I am guessing by the game you have put down here, you watched Furiosa.
Yeah, so the Mad Max video game will probably never be more relevant again after this week. So, last chance to talk about it. Yeah, Furiosa came out, and it was very funny because, like, the day before, I was like, I live near the Irvine Spectrum, which is the second biggest IMAX screen in California.
Oh,
so,
cool.
like, I rarely ever get to see an IMAX film opening day because it's always sold out. So I looked at Furiosa and I'm like, why is this not sold out? Aren't people excited for Furiosa? And so I took my mom to go see Furiosa. It was awesome.
Oh my God.
Awesome. In front of us, I'm pretty sure a dev team from Blizzard came in because there was like a field trip of developers. Like a dude ushered in 3 people. I think I saw people wearing Diablo 4 shirts or something. I should have gone up and talked to them. But so that was fun. But we saw Furiosa in kind of a half-empty theater, but it was awesome. And then sure enough, days later, people were like, it's a box office bomb. And I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Ignore it. Movie's amazing. See it while you can. See it before it leaves theaters. And then the next day at home, I showed my mom Fury Road and she loved it too. So I did a double feature of Furiosa and Fury Road. It was excellent. And I've tried playing the Mad Max game once before. The reason this came up is on a red carpet interview, someone asked George Miller, like, oh, would you like to have a Mad Max game? And he was like, we did one years ago. It was rubbish. And then, the
poor Avalanche.
Yeah, the head of Avalanche Studios on Twitter was like, what the fuck? Hey, man. Like, had this long Twitter thread defending the game. And like, it's worth looking up. Because, yeah, they said they really tried making a game, but it launched the same day as Phantom Pain, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it was just like, oh, man, bad timing. So I think that was the same thing. I got the Mad Max game years ago, didn't click with it, and then, I was, like, so into Fury Road and Furiosa. I was like, let me play this. And I played it with my mom. She was just watching it, but...
Nice.
So, yeah, it's so funny to finally play Mad Max 2015. It's... Like, I played maybe 10 hours of it, and I might be done with it, but I'm like, I had a good time with it. It is such an old school I mean, it came out in 2015, but to me, it feels old school these days. Old school open world, kind of the Ubisoft. Like, all right, here's one part of the map. You go to encampments, you drive your car, you upgrade. I was doing that gameplay loop, and I was like, this is pretty good. And then I looked at the world map and zoomed out, and was like, oh god, oh man, this is okay. It's
you got a lot of towers to climb.
Yeah, so I liked it for what it was, but like I might chill out with it more. I actually do like how the car handles and the combat. It's better the more you upgrade your cars and stuff.
Magnum opus, isn't that what it's called?
Yeah,
the car.
You have this little freak in the backseat, chum bucket or whatever. It's like,
oh yeah,
there's no way to describe
chum bucket.
Yeah,
I forgot about chum
it's
bucket.
like it's pretty charming, and I don't know. It's funny playing it these days because like. I don't know. I'm so overwhelmed by a lot of games these days, and playing a PS4 generation game, it's like, okay, this is manageable. I think I can do this, and the combat feels good. It's like that Arkham Batman stuff where it's like the enemies circle around and you dodge, but then Mad Max will like suplex and attack and punch people. So yeah, again, it's nothing like spectacular, but like it's fun. When it comes to movie tie-in games, I'm getting that juice that I like.
Right.
But I don't know if other people played it back in the day. If other people are diving in. But I did think it was funny to see it come up again.
I played it when it first came out, and I was like, again, it's same as you. I probably played it for about 10 hours and was like, all right, it's not clicking with me enough to keep going whole hog with this. And then years later, Rage 2 came out, and I think Rage 2 is kind of the more compelling version of this type of game.
Yeah.
I think you know, because there's a lot of the Mad Max games, a lot of like melee combat, and there's a lot of car combat. Yeah. So it's kind of a hard game to make because you're really making like you're making an open world game and like a brawler and a car combat game. They probably had a lot to take on. And also it seemed like they weren't allowed to use, like, it was funny hearing George Miller say that because you're like, I don't know if they were allowed to use like the aesthetic, or did they consult with them on like the War Boys or anything?
There's no way they knew what the new movie was about. If you play, like, there's no way they knew what Fury Road was about.
Which is a shame because he was trying to get it made for like 20 years, so presumably there was a concept art, or maybe they were told to not go near that, or I don't know, but yeah, cool. I'm glad you're right though. This is probably the last time that game has got a bit of relevancy, which is a bit of a shame. You can buy it now on Steam for $20. There you go. I already own it. I do not have I do not have much time in that game at all. I must have played it on console or something. I have 0.7 hours on Steam. It came out.
Well, you really didn't like it.
Yeah, I have it on PS4. I have it physical on PS4. I got it on an Xbox sale like over the holidays for like $3 or something. Like, so it's like it's one of those. You just live long enough, you end up having multiple copies of every game. You know.
The last game to talk about this week is a game that came out back in January. Jesse, I saw you tweeting about this during the week, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I like Marble Madness games, and this looks like that, but like, I don't know, at a fucking dance club in the 2009. Go Mecha Ball. What is this thing? Is it a twin stick shooter? Is it a roguelike? Is it a platformer? What the fuck is this?
You got it. It's all of those and more. Go Mecha Ball. Man, this game, woo, baby. It came out in January. I played it in January. It launched on Xbox Game Pass, and that's how I played it for however long. I think it's still on there. I would assume it hasn't been that long. Oh my goodness. So, okay, to set it up, the story of the game is like 3 or 4, maybe more. I don't know. I feel like I skip it every time. Drawings at the beginning of the game that's like, you are a bunch of cat people, and then a warp tunnel appears and you end up in a computer, and now you're little mechs, and I'm like, okay, sure, I don't care, let me shoot some stuff. But it works. It's a good enough narrative setup to get you into one of the most fun arcade games I've played all year.
How's it play? What is it? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Don't worry. I'm walking you along the journey, all right? That I went through when I enjoyed the experience. So once you start playing, Go Mecha Ball is a top-down, bird's-eye view, isometric, whatever word you want to use, twin-stick shooter where you play as a mech that's in the form of a ball, and you go. Whoa, great name for a game. And you have controls that work sort of like, there's 2 modes. So you have the walking mode where you're out and your arms are out and you can shoot your guns and everything and walk around like you would normally. You shoot in all like 360 degrees around your character, and like it's like a twin stick shooter. You know how they work. You shoot at the enemies, blah blah blah. There's different guns. All the guns are really interesting. Like some of them are like there's like a sniper rifle or a shotgun. There's one that's called the Ducky. That sounds like a duck when you shoot it, which is great. Or there's one that like shoots projectiles that bounce off of walls and off of enemies, and that one's really fun to use. Everything has ammo as well. So when you run out of ammo, the other form comes into play, and this is why I think this game is so much fun. The other half of it, apart from the moving and shooting, you can also go into ball mode and like you can very quickly dash across areas and like bump into enemies and kill them by crashing into them. Or when you hit them, they have a physics movement and they'll like bounce into walls and hurt themselves, or bounce off of platforms and hurt themselves. And the levels are sort of, there's a little bit of verticality to them. So you can go up hills, or there's like speed ramps that make you go faster up the ramps and then onto these other platforms and ledges and fight. And when you go in the air, you kind of float in the air for a little bit. So there's that depth to it, but you also can still dive in ball mode in the air and like smack into people like you're like a dive bomb hitting enemies. It's so fast and frenetic, and I think that's part of what makes it so much fun is like the ball mode stuff, very quickly maneuvering around the environments and smacking into things, getting your ammo back when you hit them. So it has that like a Doom Eternal, or I think the first Doom 2016 does the same thing, where if you run out of ammo, instead of giving you the opportunity to be scared and run away, you actually are encouraged to get in the fight again and smack into enemies and kill them to get your ammo back so you can continue using your guns from a longer range. It's just so compelling, man. It's a wave-based shooter, too. So every level that you go into, there's like one wave, you kill them all, the next wave, another wave, and so on, for like 3-4 waves per thing. And then there's a boss fight at the end of each 3 stages. And the boss fights are really fun, too. They're like, the first one's a big spider that drops and like adds, and you fight them, and you can smack into the bosses. And there's one that like spins around like a big top, so you can't crash into them because you'll get hurt. But you can like go in the air and come down on them, and like, they exhaust every opportunity I think there is with the mechanics in the game. And because it's a roguelike, even if you feel like you've maybe seen everything there is to see, you can unlock new weapons with resources that you get from every run, and new abilities, and there's new like mechs you can play as that have different starting abilities and weapons and stuff.
Cool.
I don't know. It's one of those games that you play for like 6 to 10 hours. You forget about, this is what happened to me anyway.
Right,
you play for like 6 to 10 hours. You forget about
Yeah.
it. You see a clip on Twitter and you're like, okay, I'm going to give this another 6-10 hours.
I remember like intravenously playing this game and then being done with it. You don't remember? I was trying to remember what it reminded me of. Frank, I'm going to go to you because I wonder if you, does it look like anything to you?
Jesse compared it to Marble Blast Ultra.
It might be as well. Do you remember Sonic, is it 3D Blast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the
it's a bit like
isometric
that.
Sonic game. Yeah, it kind of that, where it's like, but with guns.
Yeah.
Like with a tank mode as well as, you know, it's like a frenetic version of that or
There was-
something. It's super
There was
interesting.
also a game on Steam called like Mabo's Bad Balls Invasion or something. Mabo's Bad Balls Invasion. What the hell's it called?
This is somebody had too much cheese before
It's
bed.
real. Madballs and Babo Invasion. It's a real game.
Oh, yeah.
Madballs and Babo
Oh, yeah.
Invasion.
Look at this.
Yes, Madballs and Babo : Invasion.
It does
Not colon
actually look a
invasion.
lot like this,
Yeah.
Frank.
Madballs and Babo Invasion.
I need to have a word with the people at Whale Peak Games.
How the fuck? This game came out 15
The
years
only
ago.
reason-
How did you pull this one out?
So back in 2009, my friend and I, we only had an iMac. It was like one of the first games on Steam you could play on Mac. And so like my friend and I got it and we gifted it to our friends on PC. So like, look, we're finally PC gamers. And so the 4 of us kept playing Madballs and Babo Invasion. But like we never got the name right, so it just became the slurred thing of like Madballs,
Madballs and
Babos,
Babos,
yeah,
Babos,
Babos, and you want to play Madballs, Babos, and because they'd be jumping on like I don't know whatever was relevant at the time, some other.
I
shooter.
take everything I said back about RKGK Rakugaki
Yes.
because Madballs. So are Madballs? This game was made in Canada, so Jesse, you should know all about this. Is Madballs
Oh, you guys don't
a
have
thing?
Bad Balls?
I think-
That's not
Is Mad
you're not-
Balls a
I
thing?
think it's like a
It's
kid's
like a Mad-
toy, right? It's like
It
Garbage
was,
Pail
yeah,
Kids
it
with like
was-
ugly marbles or something.
You know what? I was sitting here making a joke like you guys don't have Mad Balls, and I'm realizing now that I do know what this is.
Yeah,
it
Mad
is like a
Balls.
little. It was like you're right actually. Yeah, it's like Garbage Pail Kids, but they were just spheres you would buy that like came in little packages that you would
Just
get.
gross heads.
Yeah, or like an eyeball or like a I don't know demon or
Okay.
something. Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
we had like Crazy Bones in America, which were just like little pieces of plastic with faces on them.
I mean, Frank knows
Crazy
about it, unless. He must. It must be. Maybe it's a generational thing. What the
Maybe
fuck
Frank's
is
just a
Babo?
secret
Though? Is that
Canadian.
like the name? Is
I
that the
think
home planet?
Madballs is probably
Madballs?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know where Babo
Takes place in Babo.
I do like the Steam description is now with cross-platform multiplayer, PC versus Mac at last.
It doesn't even say
my
what
gosh.
the game is. It just
That's
says-
what I'm saying. Any Mac gamer in 2009, it was this and Team Fortress 2 are the only two games you could play.
Yeah. No, it's like they don't even need to say what the game is because it's like you go into a restaurant
what the
and
hell
you're
else are you
starving,
gonna play?
and you're like, don't even give me the menu. Just bring out one of the two dishes you have.
Wow, Madballs and Babo Invasion. This is a
There's a
should
demo.
do a fat session of this.
Babos and Babos in Vegas.
I'd play on my
Here's a
my
good-
MacBook. It probably runs on the MacBook. We got to play it authentically.
You got to play it on a 2009 MacBook
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, Babo and you Invasion. Cool. Anyway, we were actually talking about Go Mecha Ball.
Oh yeah.
I also wanted to mention that Souls is spelled SOLS in case anyone is looking for that one. All right, let's call it there. That's a podcast, folks. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. Episode 3 of Dear Dwyery is up now, where I talked to Jake Solomon about XCOM and Marvel Midnight Suns and his new studio, Midsummer Studios, and the game that they're making, some sort of narrative-led life simulator, Sims with a story, something like that. Interesting conversation. And, of course, the Maryland Renfest, the most important thing to talk about from anyone who's lived near Baltimore. Yeah, a bunch of stuff getting worked on at the moment. Our Dredge doc is almost done. Great job, Jeremy, on the edit on that one. My Wipeout music and sound feature is almost done. Dwarf Fortress coming in the pipeline as well. We're working on pre-production on a bunch of really interesting retrospectives as well that hopefully we'll be able to, I'll tell you about soon enough, the next couple of weeks. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Just to round up some of the games, because there was a lot. Dungeons of Blood and Dream, XDefiant, Go Mecha Ball, Nine Souls, RKGK, Rakugaki. Jesse does a great job of making sure that these all get linked in the description as well. Yeah, and as you said earlier, there is a YouTube version of this show, and Jesse also does all the gameplay and stuff for all the segments there, so go check it out. As well as producing Dear Dwyery. Gets put to work, man. That's episode 178. You guys up to much for this? You know what? Actually, God, I feel like such a fucking cop. Do you know what I'm doing after this?
Giving
No,
speeding
what?
tickets.
I've been secret. I've been secretly. I've been doing my exams to be a referee in soccer. I've been doing like online course for doing, and today I've got a field test. So I have to drive down to fucking Orinda, Jeremy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is a pain. Yeah, it's like east of Oakland. So I have to go down there and like wear a little referee's fucking uniform, which can I say, maybe the worst thing about it, which actually was the thing where I was like, I don't know if this is for me. You have to tuck your shirt in to your shorts. I was like, man, I feel like such a cop. This is awful. I'm just enforcing rules. But I was trying to look for football teams around here to go play for, and you know, I'm 38 now. I'm a goalie though, so you can do that for a good while. But it's hard when you play football and you're not as good as you were. And like I was a decent goalkeeper. I used to play for good teams and win competitions and stuff. So it's hard. And I was like, and as I was going through stuff, there was like a link to like be a referee, and I was like, I've literally never in my life even considered that. But now I'm like, if I want to like be involved in soccer for another 10, 20 years, this might be the path to take. So I did their online course, and it was like weirdly super well run and like interesting. And I was like, oh, this is like fucking impossible. Like this job is impossible. And that just made me more interested in it. So that's what I'm doing today. So
Nice.
wish me luck, gents.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
that
luck.
sounds
If it
like
doesn't
fun.
work out, you can also just go work at a Foot Locker and you're set. You've
That's
already got
true.
the
You'll have the
uniform.
uniform, and then
Yeah.
you could just charge on to like local soccer games and tell people what to do in your work uniform.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, I can. I've got a Halloween costume for next year.
Yep.
If I'm still,
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
You have to wear the
good.
referee outfit on one podcast episode.
Please. The one where you talk about sensible soccer. That's the one.
Okay. I promise. At one stage this year, I will wear it. Okay.
Thank
You
you.
can hold me to it, and we'll try and thematically theme it to something. If there's like a fucking thematically theme, if there's like a soccer, if I'm talking about FIFA or something.
Yeah.
And if I don't and I fuck it up, and it just so happens to be the last game of the year one, and I have to wear it, then okay.
Yeah, or if we're talking about like a you go to prison, but they have like a really summery kind of attire. You know what I mean?
What?
Because it's like stripes. It's,
Why am I going?
It's black.
Why am I going to prison?
Because
oh, sorry, yeah.
Because
you mean like
it's like an old timey prisoner outfit.
Sorry,
but
Alcatraz
instead of
kinda.
instead of the full Escape from Alcatraz, it's like a it's like a cut off version of that. I don't know, man.
No, I hear you. That makes sense.
In my head, it made a lot of sense.
It must be hard for they used to like try and dress people in shit that people wouldn't wear, you know, so if they escaped, like the orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
But now I feel like people would just wear an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, you might just be a member of Brockhampton if you know what I mean?
Who knows? Oh my god. What are you guys doing for the rest of your days? Any referee tests?
Tonight I'm going, well, in like an hour, I'm going to AEW's
Mad Max 2 with your parents.
Yeah.
With your mom.
AEW has a live show in Los Angeles, and I bought tickets so that I'm on hard cam. So
Oh no!
Yeah.
Is hard cam what?
like
Is like
on
the main
so,
cam?
Yeah, so it's like there's the ring, and then all the dorks right there stage side. So
All the dorks.
That's awesome.
yeah,
You're bringing
You're
your
gonna
big
get,
dogs
like-
posters.
No,
You're
I
gonna
should-
make
I-
signs
sign.
and-
I should have brought a sign. I didn't, because the main reason I want to go is Mina Shirakawa. They're this month at AEW. They're building up to Forbidden Door, in which they're working with Japanese promotions. So there is a micro chance that Mina Shirakawa shows up. But Mariah May, who's on the roster, used to be in Stardom, so I'm going to scream for Mariah May. There's other wrestlers too. What, fine. But
You gonna wear your Stardom cap?
oh yes, I got a Stardom hat. I got my Mina Shirakawa shirt. I got my Stardom sweatshirt. I'm all in. And then tomorrow night in LA is a Japanese women's wrestling show. So it's
Excellent.
like I'm there. And then tomorrow morning I have therapy to balance it out. So I'm very excited. Very excited.
Yeah, genuinely.
Love it. That's good.
That's awesome. man.
All right. Call it, folks. That was episode 178. Thanks you all for listening. Thanks for supporting our work. And we'll see you again next week on the Crewcast. Bye.